is Roland Grimes, and I'm happy to say that I know that I and so many of the gentlemen that's sitting here with me are beneficiaries of the move and the things that Jackie Roosevelt Robinson went through in order to reach that level of MLB, Major League Baseball. I know that. Like the gentleman sitting across from me in the green sweater, we integrated McKinley Technical High School in that other landmark decision in 1954 in the Brown versus the Board of Education. We went into McKinley Technical High School integration year, taking over 600 minorities there in a school that had a capacity to handle 3,000 students, and they only had 300 in there at the time we were in it, Gary, okay? But it was a decision, and I know that as a result of the two things that had happened prior to 1954, Jackie Robinson and, of course, the Brown versus the Board of Education, okay? We are beneficiaries of that. And as my son said, he went to McNamara Catholic School, and that was an all-boys school at the time. When he didn't go there until 1982. But things have happened. Things did happen, you know, and we collectively have been the beneficiary. We're sitting around right now in the company of guys that played for every high school in the Washington metropolitan area. Armstrong, and across the street was Dunbar. I'm sitting here flanked by two Dunbar graduates, McKinley Tech graduates, and of course, a lifetime friend of mine by the name of Gary Mays, who's sitting to my left. Without question, and when he opens his mouth and talks about some of the things that the success, failures, uptimes, downtown, and all else that's considered a part of his life, I'm sure it will be a revelation to so many of you, just like it has been to us. Without further ado, I'm going to just continue to open this up to whomever has something to say about himself, okay, in reference to the success, the frustration, okay, or whatever happened in that era between, let's just say, 1954 and 1960, in that period there. So whoever's next can go right ahead and lift it up.
Well, I'd like to take us back to our sandlot days.
Okay, same area?
Even before high school.
Okay.
And I'd like to say, and I think most will agree, that Washington, D.C. at that time was heavy into baseball.
Yeah.
We grew up from young kids heavy into baseball. Burdette Kamak is my name.
Burdette Kamak, okay, everybody. Please.
And so, how did we feel with respect to Jackie Robinson? I don't know that all of us were that much in tune with what Jackie Robinson was doing. We were just busy playing baseball. We had little league baseball teams in every jurisdiction in D.C. We all had teams, and we had organized baseball where in Sandlot, one area played another, and we were all good. We can think of some of the coaches we had in baseball. And so we had visits from Washington Senator ball players. Ted Williams visited our Sandlot games and gave us lessons and so forth. So even before we went to high school, we were playing heavy baseball. We played American Legion ball. And so we had the skills when we went to high school to play ball. And we had some great games and great teams. We had championships at Griffith Stadium. I think we can all agree with that. We can remember that. Great days. And out of all of those things, I think we also got heavy into the Homestead Graves. Remember those guys? That was our experience, and what really got us heavy into baseball. And so, didn't think personally so much about what Jackie Robinson was doing as opposed to what was going on with the Negro leagues and the baseball the guys that came out of the Negro League. I mean, they were great ball players, not just Jackie Robinson. Granted, he did a lot to get us started. With respect to Major League Baseball. But again, we didn't really need his inspiration. We had already been inspired to play the game of baseball. How I feel about that now, what he accomplished, he did open the doors for a lot of us. That's, everybody knows the solution, what happened there. But I don't know what more I can say about that. I just think that, he inspired us a little bit, but we already had the inspiration to go forward and play baseball. Baseball just happened to be one thing. We had multi-sport athletes, and we played every sport there was to play. And again, because of the influence that our sandlot teams had before we even got to high school.
With that in mind, there's some guys here. Jeff, you want to talk about any experience you might have had, or you, Neil?
Yeah, well, I can continue on where, what was your first name? Burdette. In 1954.
What's your name?
Oh, Neil Woodruff. From Georgetown. From Francis.
From Francis.
Yeah, and the irony of what Jackie Robinson experienced, it's so crazy because in Georgetown, and everybody who grew up in Georgetown or went to Francis felt like we were the best athletes in the city, bar none. And there were a lot of athletes. You didn't need your paper clippings because nobody was paying any attention. You brought your game and your ability. And before I got to high school, I had the opportunity to play against Willie Woods, who is now a Hall of Famer, Pro Bowler, the whole 9 yards. And the craziest thing that happened before I got to high school, I saw a guy with one arm. He played with one of the boys clubs, and they came over to Francis, and at the time they were constructing an addition to Francis. And when we saw this guy with the one arm, we all got together and said, what position does he play? He said he plays catcher. I said, oh hell, we're gonna steal a lot of bases today. And this is true. I'm not making any of this up. And so when the game started, somebody got on base and they attempted to steal second. Gary Mays threw the ball up, put the mat under his nub, and threw the man out. And we said, it was no instant replay, so we couldn't see it again because we did not believe what we had just seen. And then after the inning was over, he came to bat, and he kept nudging with his nub, the bat, holding it up here. And as I said, they were doing some construction, and they had put a barrier fence out in center field. The first pitch, Gary Mays hit that ball over that fence, and we're like, we don't believe this. Yeah, well, I think you succeeded because we couldn't go down in the bushes to get the ball. We didn't have a lot of equipment, so we had to look for the ball. But that's just a little bit of what we experienced in the 54, 55, 56, 57 season, because we felt like if we're going to play baseball, we felt like we were a good team, but we had been indoctrinated that we couldn't beat the white boys. I mean, I'm being honest. I believe that we could not beat the white boys in baseball. And then when integration came and we started to play them, we looked at each other and said, somebody's lying.
Been lying.
Yeah, and we started to beat them. So as it went on, that whole time, anytime we would play the so-called white boys until they got in their cars and started moving out the city like like they were getting ready to leave Israel or find Israel. It was really funny. And it did not, as he said, it didn't impact on us. We didn't pay any attention because we were not into politics. We were into, hey, let's be the best athletes that we can be, and we started to beat everybody we could possibly beat. And then, in closing, when I saw Gary Mays, I found out that he could also play basketball. Yeah. And I got recruited to go to Dunbar, and I saw Armstrong play spin gun. And I saw Gary Mays beat Elgin Baylor to death with that nub. It was the darndest thing I'd ever seen. Now, hey, I saw this. You know, I don't have it on tape because we didn't have that good stuff. But I actually saw, he beat him, and he beat a guy named John Syfax, who really didn't have a big heart anyhow. I saw Gary Mays do this, and this is a guy who was, what do they call him now? You don't have the ability to do this, that, or the other? Well, not true. And then the rest of us who were sitting here, we were all athletes, and we thought we were pretty darn good.
Donnie Christian, tell them who you are.
Yeah, my name is Donnie Christian, and I started at Francis Junior High School. Started watching Neil, and I had an older brother who played along with Neil, who went on to McKinley. And I was, in 1954, when integration came along, I was in the 8th grade at Francis. And of course, I followed my brother to McKinley Tech, where I met Jeff and Tiny. I played football, basketball, and baseball in McKinley. And it was something that as Neil said, if you come out of Georgetown, or the bottom as we call it, you were expected to be a good ball player. So it was just second nature to me. I had a pretty successful athletic career and academic career at McKinley. But one of the most disappointing things, and I think about it all the time,
All right, now, tell it now.
Upon graduation, none of our coaches, who happened to be all white, bothered to try to get us a scholarship or to get us into a school of higher learning. It took a coach from Phelps High School, a competitive high school, to talk to my mother to try to get me into Howard University.
Okay.
And I mean, I was kind of hurt by that.
Yeah.
Conversely, the basketball coach at Spingarn tried to get me into historically black college, but none of my coaches did that. As a result of that, I sat out a year. I didn't want to go to Howard because I wanted to leave town. I thought I'd outgrown D.C. And fortunately, playing sandlot football after high school, some coaches came up from North Carolina from St. Augustine's College and saw me play and signed me up immediately. And so I spent my 4 years at St. Augustine's College in Raleigh, North Carolina, during the time of lunch counter demonstrations. In Raleigh, Greensboro, Winston-Salem, you not only had to be a ball player, but you had to be steadfast in terms of what your rights are. Yeah. And I tell my sons and my grandson quite often, you have to stand up for what's right and to help somebody behind you.
Amen. It's all right. That's all right. That's it. Jeff, please tell us something about 3 sport athletes.
My name is Barrington Jefferson. I was born in Southeast Washington and raised in Letroy Park. Letroy Park is a historical part of Washington in that there are a lot of prominent people, educators, athletes, politicians, as well as the mayors and former mayors. Even Jesse Jackson lives there today. What I noticed in Letroy Park when I first moved there, the focus, the center of attraction was Howard Playground. At that particular time, the director was J.O. Williams. J.O. Williams was an inspiration to Letroy Park, the community, as Jackie Robinson was to baseball. And living around Griffith Stadium, you're always into sports. The Redskins, which everybody hated, but you couldn't miss it because every Thursday night they were practicing and the drums were beating and the Indians were dancing, hail to the Redskins. And of course you were into the Senators because they never won any baseball games. Well, like the Redskins never win on Sunday, the Senators never could get out of last place. But you understood baseball. You learned baseball. I learned baseball. Of course, Jackie Robinson was an inspiration, but the ball players that were on the major league teams, they were my idols. Jackie Robinson was one of them, but Roy Campanella, I'm sorry, like Gary Mays was probably my idol. On the other hand, as we get into baseball, I wasn't a National League person. I was an American League person because I grew up with the Senators. But I admired the Cleveland Indians because why? Because they had black ball players. So I knew Luke Easter, Suitcase Simpson, and Larry Doby. So that was the only time I got to pay to go see a game. Otherwise, I was still in the ballpark. Or you wait till the gates start open at the 8th inning, and we'd run in, hide behind the seats. And I've had my experiences in Detroit Park, and we did every little gangster thing or gangster trick that kids would pull in Detroit Park. You had to survive. And one of the characteristics I noticed in growing up in Detroit Park you had to be an athlete. One of the most important things you had to do, you had to learn how to run. You had to be fast. Don't make any difference whether you're a boy or a girl. You had to run, if you were a girl, to keep away from the boys, and if you're a boy, you had to learn to get away from the police. Because the police were always chasing you for something. And the police would never catch anybody. He couldn't catch us, you know. Black athlete ain't gonna let no police catch him. So the only crime you committed was for getting caught. Not for doing a crime, but for getting caught. And in those days, a lot of good athletes passed through Detroit Park. The Falcons had the best track team, not only in the metropolitan area of Washington, but all along the East Coast. And they were the focal point of the Canadian track meets, the Mirrors games in New York, pin relays, and the Evening Star games every year. I can name guys, William Arthur Smith, Bootsy Collins, a million guys who ran track. And they were really good athletes. And too many of them to know. Gary probably knows some of the guys he played with, Stymie Crockett, Lefty Wilkerson, Joe Morgan, and we call guys we know. Of course, we had guys with nicknames. Some of you don't know their nicknames. You had Psycho, okay. We had Queen Ball, we had Dew Ball, and we had Dust Ball. Okay, Dust Ball was a football player, worked at Detroit Park. Queen Ball was a pool shooter. And of course, we know Dew Ball, we went to school with at McKinley. Y'all called him Charlie. Once he got with the white kids, they started calling him Charlie. He was always Dew Ball to me. Okay, and then we had one of the great baseball players around, his name was Marvin Glenn, but we called him Casmo. And then we had Diddy Mo, who was a pool shop. And then we had Grimy Mo. Grimy Mo, alias P.T. Bobby Hopper, who recently passed. A lot of people didn't know he was Grimy Mo. I don't know who gave him that name, Grimy Mo. But then when we start playing ball with the various recreation centers, and especially coming up in the #2 Boys Cup, but I think it was at 12th and U at the time, #2.
Yeah.
And all of us basically congregated there. Everybody who could play or tried to play or wanted to play, you came to the Boys Club. You came to Harry Pope. You got to know Jabbo Williams, and everybody else who came through that. There was so much history involved in it. It's so not untold. And as K-Mac tried to say, basically, athletics was a part of our life. It wasn't so much Jackie Robinson as it was all the other things that you had to do to enhance your life and to basically make your life worthwhile. And in some instances in Leatroy Park, a lot of time it was survival, you know, because it was either play ball or get hit upside the head, you know. Right, like Sonny the Boston. Sonny Weaver was one hell of an athlete. Now this is a girl. We have several girls around here who competed with boys. I mean, in all sports and all activities, and even boxing or fighting would whip your butt, you know, and get behind and catch.
Gentlemen, we're going to take a quick station break. We're going to open it up a little bit. We have some more people join us. So everybody
thank you.
just spread out a little bit.